All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Or I guess I should say good morning for some of you. Today, I am super excited to introduce you to someone who I admire and am thrilled that I get to work with at Love Life Telehealth. But first, a little bit about me. So, my name is Dr. Niki Davis. I'm a former rocket scientist turned lifestyle medicine physician with Love Life Telehealth. And I am super passionate about helping my patients get well and stay well by treating the root cause of their chronic lifestyle related medical conditions so that they can live life to the fullest. Now, today is extra special. I have the absolute pleasure of introducing you to one of my colleagues and friends, Dr. Jeff Pierce. Now, Dr. Pierce is an incredible physician, and I'm so excited for you to get to know him a little bit better and about the wonderful impact that he is making with his patients. So, hello, Dr. Pierce. I'm so thrilled to get to chat with you today. How are you?
Oh, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here, and what a warm welcome that is. Made my day already. Thank you so much, Dr. Davis.
Oh, no problem. It sounds like you've had a good day so far out. I think you just came back from a nice run and you're having your water, staying hydrated.
That's right. Yeah. Though we've had plenty of water in our neck of the woods over the last couple of days, it's been record-breaking rains, and so the run was a little bit flooded, a little bit slippery and muddy, but you got to get out when you can, for breathe in some of the some of that nature and get a good workout. So that was great.
Yeah, well, I have to say I'm jealous. And I know we're kind of starting off by just chatting, but that's
Mhm.
okay because this is what this is about. But I'm jealous of where you live. So you live in Santa Rosa, California, which some people may know, but it's the place where True North Health Center is, where you can do water only fasting with Dr. Goldhammer. But it's also the location of where Dr. John McDougall used to do his 10-day live-in programs. So I've been able to go to Santa Rosa a couple times working with both Dr. McDougall and Dr. Goldhammer, and I just absolutely loved the area. I thought it was just gorgeous, beautiful. I mean, I went on walks all the time when I was there. So you must just love where you live.
It's a pretty place. I had family in town this weekend, and we're originally from Texas. And he was commenting on my brother was commenting on how beautiful things were, and I said, "Yeah, when I came here interviewing for family medicine training, it was about this time of year back in 2000 three, I guess is when the interview would have been. And oh my goodness, it was just so beautiful. And I was like, I hope I like the training program because I want to stay here no matter what.
Yeah. So that's what initially brought you there then was your residency training?
That's right. Yeah, I born and raised in South Texas. I did all my school and all that stuff over there. And then like everyone else in America, when you apply for residency, you have the option to apply locally where you're from or where you live in, and or see different parts of the United States and try to find a training program that fits you. And I was lucky because this was a good training program for family medicine, and it also happened to be in a beautiful part of the world, so I lucked out.
Yeah. Well, and now with you being in this beautiful part of the world, that tends to have, I know you mentioned that it's been raining a lot there, but it tends to have pretty nice weather year round. So
Mhm.
you grow your own food, is that right?
Oh, yep. That's another sort of the benefit of being out here is that we can grow food year round, and we don't get 24 inches of snow, and we don't get a month worth of temperatures over 100, and like some of the other extremes in that people live through in the other parts of the United States. And so we were able to grow a lot of our own fruit and veg, and that is one of the things I did as soon as the rain broke is we had to get out and catch up on some things in the garden, and we dug up some sweet potatoes and some what they call Jerusalem artichokes or sunchokes, and yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah, typical
Yeah.
weekend.
That sounds wonderful. So what are some of the, I guess, what are some of the things that are in season for you right now? What are you enjoying?
Well, I love growing fruit. And I just met qualifications for the Sonoma County Master Gardener program, which is through University of California, and we have to do well. we don't have to, I suppose, but to maintain our volunteer status, we do a certain number of hours every year, and one of the things that we can do to volunteer for is to give talks. And the first talk that I'm going to give is going to be how to grow fruit year round in our neck of the woods. And so, for a lot of the north, and also south, as you get away from the equator in either direction, right, it's all very seasonal, and fruit trees go to sleep and come back in the spring, and we have lots of that too. But we're in this Mediterranean climate that allows us to get away with, usually, unless we get a real bad cold snap, to get away with citrus outside, and some things if you protect them, like avocados. So we've got a bunch of avocados on our tree, which is really cool because avocados don't usually grow very well up in this part of the California. It's usually a Southern California thing. And but we've harvested some pomegranates recently, and some persimmons, Asian persimmons, and part of the talk actually is it's a little tongue in cheek, but when we say how to grow fruit year round, one of the best ways to do that is to have friends with big trees that can't harvest all their fruit. So we went over to some of our good friends' house, and they have a huge Hachia persimmon tree. It's the one that looks like an acorn, and if you eat it too soon, it's super astringent. But if you wait until it's kind of gooey, it's nature's candy. It's so sweet. And so we harvested, I don't know, like 100 of those that we're going to try to cook and dry and just eat plain and stuff like that. So it's the time to be thankful for, and that's one of the big parts of growing food, is to be thankful also for the friends who you can share with, and then the friends that share with you.
Oh, Dr. Pierce, I wish I lived nearby. I would be one of your sharing friends. I would love
Oh,
to share food.
I'm sure you would. I'll keep an eye out for any open houses in the neighborhood,
Yes,
Dr.
please, something inexpensive.
A little bit.
Well, okay, so I guess I'm curious to hear, what got you into medicine in general? Why did you choose medicine as a career?
Mm. You know, uh, in high school, we had our guidance counselor, career counselor, and stuff like this. I was active in band big time, and my big brother went into music, and I was trying to decide what to do. And um, I found out I was kind of a studious guy and did okay in science classes and stuff like that. But I never wanted to be a doctor. Like, someone would bring that up, I'm like, whoa, that sounds way too complicated, and to have someone else's life in my hands, that sounds ridiculous. And my uncle, I was nurse anesthetist, and he said, well, why don't you just come, and you get to shadow somebody there with career day or whatever. And so I went and shadowed him. And what the most touching part of that experience is that he has the most amazing bedside manner. He's retired now, but just he was just the kind of person you would want right as you were nervous and getting ready to go to sleep for some surgery. And he just did such a great job with that, and was very comforting. And also, he's a jokester, so you tell jokes to folks and get them laughing, and then they'd wake up and their surgery was all done. And I said, okay, yeah, I guess I can try this. And there was this program out of South Texas where they were trying to get more South Texans into medicine. It was actually started as a part of an affirmative action program where they're trying to get more Hispanics, more Latinos back into medicine, and to stay in the South Texas. And I'm half and half. My mom is Mexican American, and so I joined that program, and the first enrichment sort of thing where I was paired with a brain surgeon. I was like, oh, I'm paired with a brain surgeon. I'm going to be a brain surgeon. And then and what I found that I was interested while sitting in brain surgery was fascinating. And this was as an undergrad, um, to watch and see all that stuff. The most meaningful part was talking to the patient and holding her hand before she went uh, under anesthesia, and just being there for her, because no one else was really. I don't want to sound rude, but like, the brain surgeon was focused on the surgery, and the nurses were making sure everything was going to be sterile and all this stuff. And you could tell that no one was giving her the attention that she needed. And I didn't know. how to do brain surgery or maintain sterility or do anything else helpful. So I just, held her hand and chatted with her. And I think that was what solidified for me what was going to be the most meaningful part of medicine, was to reach patients on a level that I felt was very personal. And then also what geared me towards family medicine, which I found to be a specialty that had a lot of like-minded folks who, we could do things with our hands, we could do procedures and things like that, but that wasn't usually what was the most exciting part of the job. The most exciting part of the job was to be able to connect with a patient on a deeper level and help change their lives,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh, that's amazing. So then you went to school in Texas?
Yeah, I went undergrad at what was called University of Texas Pan American and has now been renamed to University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, down way in the south, about 30 minutes north of the Texas-Mexico border. And then went to medical school in Houston at Baylor College of Medicine. And then came out here to Santa Rosa for residency in family medicine. And did during that process fell in love with global health and working abroad, because I had experiences both in undergrad and in medical school to working in Latin America, a little bit in Mexico, but predominantly in Honduras, along the border with Honduras and El Salvador. And there, you can, I mean, in certain places in America, you can throw a stone and hit 3 specialty doctors before it falls the ground, before the stone hits the ground. But, out there, there's just hardly any healthcare providers at all. And folks really have to suffer with conditions for a lot longer if they ever do get into care. And so that was really meaningful. And my first job after residency was working in Africa doing HIV and tuberculosis and malnutrition work.
Wow.
And did that for a little while, and until just about the time that I had a baby. And then that was my last jaunt in working abroad, and I've been here ever since.
Wow, that's amazing. Oh, what you've had a lot of pretty incredible experiences throughout medicine. Um,
So,
so okay, so had a baby and then came, and decided to kind of stick around to be
yeah.
around for the baby. So good job. Uh, and then, so tell me about this then, family medicine and then lifestyle medicine, how did that all come about?
Yeah, I think in family medicine training, a big part of family medicine training, even though we do train in inpatient hospital medicine, it's an ER and labor and delivery and stuff like that. A big focus on the training is to prepare family docs for working in the outpatient setting, where we're seeing predominantly chronic illnesses, diabetes, high blood pressure, people with heart disease, people with autoimmune conditions, things like that. And that was a very stressful and not very rewarding part of training for me. I felt like I was doing a whole lot of making sure someone brought the right pill bottles, make sure that she was taking what I thought she was taking and at the right dosages. And then she'd tell me which ones needed refills, and I'd refill those. And I would make sure she was getting her mammogram screen ordered. And then the visit was over, and you got to see the same person multiple times over the 3 years of training, and that was neat. And you got kind of an idea of what someone was like. But I certainly didn't feel like I was making my patients any better in general in the outpatient setting. I felt like I was just sort of putting fingers in the leaky dam to keep things from just yeah, imploding.
Right.
And while that can be life saving to help keep somebody on their very helpful medications, I was never getting to the root cause of things. And so I felt like I was getting the root cause of things when I would, you know, give somebody the right antibiotics for tuberculosis and see their tuberculosis go away, or I would, be involved in a surgery, a C-section delivery. Everything's great at the end of it, sort of. And so I stayed away from general outpatient medicine what I was doing in my career when I started getting interested in lifestyle medicine was predominantly obstetrics. As a family doc, I had extra training and was doing that. Still am doing that, I suppose. But when I heard about the field of lifestyle medicine a handful of years ago, I thought, wait a second, you mean we can really talk to people, have these longer visits in general, really talk to people where we're not just refilling a prescription, and I have the skills because I'm going through this training in lifestyle medicine to actually know what to say instead of, oh, you should eat right and exercise more, which was my understanding of sort of lifestyle habit lecturing or recommendations when I was a resident.
Yeah.
And then I learned, okay, wow. So with the right information and the right amount of time and the right focus and some of these tips and tricks, we can help people get to the root cause of their illness, and then they don't have to be refilling their diabetes medicine and refilling their high blood pressure medicine, and they can avoid the heart attack that, all the men in their family have had, or half the women in their family have had, or whatever it is. And I thought that was, all of a sudden I felt like I could be a healer and that's something that I think a lot of us don't get in medicine. We go into medicine thinking that we're going to heal people and really connect with people, and it's easy to get burnt out. But I think lifestyle medicine is helping both the patients and the providers on so many levels.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's been life-changing for me, definitely. I was lucky that I was, decided to go back to do medical school
Yeah,
because I wanted to become this kind of a doctor. So I kind of had that in the back of my mind
yeah,
throughout that. But in talking to a lot of other lifestyle medicine professionals, I find that your story is very similar to others where you get burned out and it feels like you're kind of on this hamster wheel where you're not really making much of a difference unless it's something acute, like you mentioned, somebody breaks an arm, you can fix that.
yeah.
But so many people are suffering from these chronic lifestyle related diseases. I mean, it's what most people are struggling with. Um, so I think that as a doctor, to feel like I finally have a tool that I can actually help people get better, get better over time instead of slowly get worse over time, add more and more medications over time. So yeah, it sounds like you have a similar story to a lot of people, a lot of providers who end up going back to do lifestyle medicine because it does give them something more in their life where they feel like they're actually making a difference.
Yeah, I hear you, Nikki. And the making a difference is on so many different levels, right? So clearly on the patient level, we've seen our patients and ourselves included as we lead healthier lives with healthier habits, see illnesses go away and feel better, more energy, all this kind of stuff. So clearly it helps the person on that end. Then it helps the provider, right? Because this is more meaningful in general, and you feel like you're making a change. And then it just like happens to be something that's better for the environment. Meaning, like, as folks live, particularly eating more of a plant-based diet, which is so much gentler on the environment. It's amazing that I can prescribe something that helps the patient and helps the planet at the same time, which is just on a whole nother scope of being able to help to do our little part to help things out. And it helps the planet, clearly helps um, animals who are not in a factory farm somewhere waiting to be their next Chick-fil-A meal or whatever. And then it's also probably well, more than probably, but it saves money for the system, right? We spend so much money on, okay, we're not going to really do all that much for this person, and then boom, they have their like big heart attack and they need the stent, and then they're going to need like maybe a triple bypass because whoa, they had much worse disease than we thought they did, and then they're going to be in the ICU, and they're going to, like, that is extremely expensive for the system. And we're going broke as a healthcare system, clearly. And so how amazing is it that what we now have the power to recommend is helpful on so many levels. It's almost, I mean, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah, I agree. And it makes you realize that, it really does make you feel like you're on the right side of history with this, because how could it not be the way to go when it does benefit so many different aspects of the earth and the animals and the people and all of that. So I'm just glad that I get to be on this ride with you, Dr.
Yeah,
Pierce.
me too, Dr. Davis. Me too.
um, all right. Well, I would love to hear if you have one, maybe a favorite patient success story.
Hmm. Well, one that quickly comes to mind is a patient of mine, a friend of mine. I feel like I should call her now because we've gotten to know each other so well. But um, she was quite motivated. She came to me. She was a nurse, and she came to me, and she had been ill in many ways, diabetes and blood pressure, but one of the worst was autoimmune illness. Uh, Rheumatoid arthritis type stuff, and the uh, she was so motivated that I feel like I helped her out a little bit, but she was doing 90% of it by herself, and had already made some wonderful changes by when she was meeting me. But she would tell me that on her worst days, that all she could do was be on her couch because of the debilitating pains of her autoimmune joint issues, and getting to get the mail was too much. Like, getting the mail from the mailbox was just too much. And um that's very hard to imagine just how difficult that was for her and her family. And then and it's not because she had a condition that was undiagnosed and she wasn't on any medications, right? Like, she was on lots of medications, but she still felt horrible. um and then she started making some changes, and she reached out to me, and I helped her along with a couple other things. And now she's it's just I get choked up just trying to communicate how much she has done for herself and her family and her friends in the community, because now she's you know often at the pool doing like water aerobics, getting other people to go with her. She's mountain biking, she's hiking, she's walking laps around her little farm where she and her family lives. She's organizing plant-based potlucks. I mean, we have a family friend who just got diagnosed with cancer, and I threw out a text to a little group of plant-based folks and said, "Hey, you don't know this person, but he just got diagnosed with cancer, and he says he wants to be all in with making some dietary changes." And she shows up at my house with a huge platter worth of full of salt, oil, sugar-free homemade enchilada pie kind of a thing, and this is amazing. So she is a spokesperson for the power of these changes. I mean, it would have just been amazing had she just made the changes for herself and saw the health changes for herself, but she has taken that to a whole nother level and has become sort of uh, a light in the dark for lots of people. And I know that if I've got someone who needs a little bit extra help, I can reach out to her and say, "Hey, do you mind meeting her? Because she probably just learned so many things better from you than I can help this person with," or whatever. And so she's great. I love that.
Wow.
Mm.
So what kinds of lifestyle changes did she make that helped her improve her rheumatoid arthritis symptoms?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest part was the diet. Uh, she, I mean, she made all sorts of changes, right? She got more active, and multiple of the what we call the pillars of lifestyle medicine, right? The diet, the exercise, the social connection, toxins, and all that stuff. But I think her earliest changes is that allowed her to get off the sofa and to walk down to get the mail without debilitating pain was switching to a very um, healthy, whole food, plant based diet. Um, very close to devoid of salt, oil, and sugar. She minimized, so she got away from processed foods, which which are just everywhere, right? There's it's very hard to get away from processed foods in America and much of the world nowadays. But so that was one thing. She got away from processed foods. She also lived on a farm with chickens and goats and goats, donkey, I don't know, multiple animals. But she said, you know what, I'm going to go 100% whole food plant based, even though I'm living on a farm basically. And so the healing power of plants plus getting away from the inflammatory components of the ultra processed diet, and some of the inflammatory components of a more animal based diet, and she's had to get off of so many of her medications. I'm like, okay, you have to talk to your primary doc or let me do it, because if you're feeling a little bit woozy when you get out of bed in the morning because your blood pressure is so low naturally, plus you're still on your blood pressure medicine, you got to get off that blood pressure medicine. And so she's gotten off so many meds and just feels so healthy. And it, you know, it all, for people who haven't experienced this, I'm sure we seem like just two more talking heads, where you change the channel and they're preaching, bone broth or whatever, celery juice 24 hours a day for 3 months, whatever. It must seem like these guys are just either they're making it up, or sure, it helps one or two people. But when you just see it over and over again and you see the science behind it, the research studies, and it's really powerful. But I could understand how some people just might not take all this at face value, because it sounds like it's like magical miracles that we're talking about, but it's
I
actually
know. I know it does, but again, like you said, like we keep saying it ourselves over and over again with our patients. And so, it's addicting for us because, the more people that we can discuss this, making these lifestyle changes, the more people who are going to feel better. That's just the way that it is. And it's interesting that you mentioned that your patient went from not only making changes for her own health, but then it sounds like was so happy with the results that she ended up spreading this message out to her community.
yeah
And it just made me think, here a lot of times, so let's say you go to a conventional doctor and your cholesterol's high, and they say, well, you could try exercising more and eating a little healthier, but let's go ahead and start you on this statin medication, right? Um, and so you start the statin medication. I don't know that I've ever heard of anyone then going out and like, hey, trying to talk their community into starting a statin, right?
we got to have statin parties on every other Thursday. And
Oh, right?
I've invited the CEO. He's gonna come and give us a talk. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason for it, right? Nobody wants to be on these medications. Now there is a place for it, right? I don't want
Sure.
to say that that it's something horrible, but boy, to give someone the opportunity to really make lifestyle changes to help improve their conditions instead of having the first thing be a medication. And I know I learned the same thing as you did in medical school and residency, that well, you really should start out the conversation with, telling them like you need to eat healthier, you need to move more. Um, but we didn't really learn how to help people do that, and we didn't learn what does a healthy diet look like, really. I mean,
No.
I certainly didn't learn that. So most physicians who don't have training in nutrition or lifestyle medicine don't really know what to tell their patients besides, well, you just, you need to eat healthier, you need to move more. It's not something that someone can really take and be successful at. And we see that people aren't successful with making those changes. So
Yeah.
to have someone who can really walk you through that process, I guess, this is kind of the benefit of lifestyle medicine, right? Is that you're kind of taking the hand of that person as they're leaving their conventional medicine doctor's appointment, feeling like I really want to take back that control. I want to take back that power of my health. But how do I do that? And then we take their hand and we say, hey, all right, tell me what your goals are. What do you want to do with your life? Why is changing your lifestyle important to you? What are you hoping to do? How long do you want to live? How healthy do you want to live? And so we get that chance to actually help them through that process. And I know you mentioned earlier, you felt like with this patient, you didn't really do much, that they did a lot of it. And I think that is true, that the patient really does have to take ownership, and really they have to dive in. And it's not as easy as just taking a pill every day, right? It does take commitment. But I think it is important as a lifestyle medicine provider that, just having that support. I've noticed with my patients that they really just appreciate having someone who believes in them, supports their goals, and is there for whatever they need. I don't know if you've had that same experience.
Yeah, for sure. Well said, Nikki. I think that, I mean, one, to have somebody that folks can count on, because they're getting families telling them, oh, just have a little of this, and oh, it's the holidays, and oh, don't worry, January's coming, you can, do a resolution, it's all gonna be fine. And then they're on social media, you're like, well, this guy looks really buff, and he says all I have to do is eat buffalo burgers, and so there's all this different information out there. And it's nice, I think, for folks to be able to reach out to somebody who has walked along the path with lots of other folks who have gone from less healthy to more healthy, and who knows the data, who's spent lots of hours, reading the studies, watching the informational videos, etc., to where you feel like, okay, I'm having a rough week this week. I can reach out to Dr. Davis, and she's going to help me answer these questions that have been bugging me. She's going to help me stay meeting my goals. And it's not like then they see Dr. Davis and you just give them the magical powder that they can take and it's going to fix everything, but you help remind them, okay, yeah, why are you doing this, right? Change isn't easy. Why are you going through? Oh yeah, well, I guess, reminding myself of what my big why is, that why that's several layers deep, about, yeah, it's not just about losing a few pounds, or it's not just about getting my hemoglobin A1C in range. It's for my kids and my grandkids, and I want to be able to take a hike and take a deep breath in the middle of the forest without, and not just watch it on YouTube because I can't get out of my chair, or whatever it is for you. It's what I mean, and we're not immune to it, right? We all as providers are all working on our own paths as well, and trying to make sure that we are making the decisions in our day to day that are going to allow us to enjoy life to its fullest and to be around for a long time to enjoy it. You said one other thing earlier about what we learned in nutrition in school, and I mean, we learned lots of things in medical school, and it's not to knock the education that I got in med school, and it's not to knock the education that family docs have, who haven't gotten extra um, continuing education in lifestyle medicine. But it is really unfair for when the majority of our patients want to know, well, what do I eat, right? Like the first thing when someone gets a diagnosis of, inflammatory bowel disease, well, what can I eat, doc? I just got colon cancer. What can I eat? And still so many docs are saying, what, basically repeating what they learned in med school, which is like, doesn't really matter what you eat, but make sure you take this pill and do the procedure and take this chemo and this other stuff. And I'd learned more about diet back then when you're at the checkout stand at the grocery store. You're like, oh, look at this. There's a magazine here. They're talking about this diet and that diet, and that's kind of what we had as far as dietary nutritional training. And then even for those folks who went above and beyond, who know really a lot more about the benefits of healthy diet, how do you do that in a 10-15 minute appointment, when you're also addressing their, making sure they got their vaccines and their, all that kind of stuff. And it's just really, really, really tough to make it happen. So the system is working against us as human beings in this country and many countries around the world, for health. And what we are starting to see is this mounting momentum of providers who are like, they cannot continue this way. We are getting sicker and we have the tools to get healthier. So how can we make the system change to help people change?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious if you have any specific medical conditions that you specialize in when you see people for lifestyle medicine. Is there anything that you really enjoy, maybe more than others, or is it just more of general, chronic lifestyle related diseases?
Yeah, so I think in general, I tend to be a generalist. But the so happy to see folks who are coming with diabetes, high blood pressure, and cholesterol, and fatty liver, and trying to get down to their ideal weight, and all sorts of stuff. I probably have um, more training than the average doc doing lifestyle medicine in obstetrical related stuff because I do so much OB, and so I love seeing the patients who are, hey, my partner and I are hoping to get pregnant soon. What can I do? Or, hey, I'm pregnant and my doc says, just eat whatever you want, but don't gain too much weight. And so I love to be able to bring the benefits of a healthy, whole food, plant-based diet to folks who are starting a family. But yeah, I feel like I see folks who are coming with all sorts of different conditions, and one of the best parts is, you know it quite well, is that the benefits of working in our group with such a wonderful cadre of docs is that whenever we do get a head scratcher, we're sending a message out in our electronic health record to the other docs and saying, hey, what do y'all folks, do you know anything about, Peruvian mountain sickness, or I don't know what it is, but it's just some rare condition. And it's really great to get the feedback from the other docs. And so we help each other out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that too. All right. Well, the other thing that I wanted to ask you, and this, not medicine related actually, is just, I know we talked a little bit about that you grow your own food. So I know that that's a hobby of yours, but tell us a little bit about your hobbies outside of medicine. What do you enjoy doing?
Well, yeah, definitely getting hands in the soil is one of the big things for me, and tying that in also with health to folks. So I like to I give interviews and lectures and stuff in maybe in areas where they're really all thinking about gardening, and they really hadn't thought much about the health aspects of the health benefits of getting out into the garden. So that's one of the things I enjoy is spreading the word about gardening to the healthcare providers, but also about the health aspects of gardening to the gardening population. So those are some things that I do. What's on my mind right now as far as hobbies, on the forefront of my mind is music. I've been playing music since I was a kid, violin for a couple years, and then saxophone since sixth grade, and I've kept it up all this time. And I just had I played jazz, and just had a real nice jazz combo gig at a beautiful place up in Healdsburg, not too far from us here in Santa Rosa. And yeah, guitar, bass, drums, my brother on trombone, myself on saxophone, and we packed the house and made some good noise. Like everyone in the band was so much better than me, and that's just one of the best parts is to play with these amazing musicians. And I knew how amazing they are, and so it gets me to practice. It's nice. It's we all need a little bit of motivation to meet our goals, right? And when you have a gig coming up in a month with some of the best guys around, it gets you into the practice room. So I just finished that on Friday, and have another gig in a couple of weeks. So I'm gonna have to keep the instrument warm, for the at least for the next couple of weeks.
Oh, how cool. How cool. It's always amazing when you meet someone who's, both very smart and analytical and then also very creative at the same time.
Mm,
It's
nice.
impressive.
It is a nice release, and we can't, can I think it's so important to do things outside of medicine. Maybe I was just imagining it, but when I was in training, I'd see these folks who just seem to eat, sleep, and breathe their job. And of course, it's more than a job. But the great Dr. Michael E. DeBakey was, he's now gone, but was alive when I was in medical school, and he was associated with our medical school and the hospitals there. And he's a big cardiovascular surgeon and cardiothoracic surgeon. And he said in our, I think our first day of medical school, when he gave the lecture, he's like, I haven't seen a movie in 10 years or something like that. And I think he was impressing upon us, how you have to be dedicated to the field. And the world is a better place for all the dedication that he and, for example, has brought forth to the field of medicine. But that ended up not being my approach. I think I would not have been as good to folks in the office, as compassionate and as giving, if I had to do it 99.9% of the day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think that was also how I approached my medical training. I tried to be very efficient so that when I was home, I could spend time with, I had a baby at the time, and really so that I could have that balance. And I don't think that it was something that was looked at as a good thing that I was seeking balance. Was not as committed as I needed to be. But I felt like that was what I needed to be able to get through it, and to become a good doctor. Honestly, I think that it is important for providers to have that balance, so that they can be there for their patients in a more, I don't know, it just feels like you can be a better a better healer for your patients when you're taking care of yourself as well.
Yeah.
So okay, so all right, two more quick questions. So first of all, I'm curious to hear, I've been asking all the doctors this, what their favorite lifestyle medicine pillar is. You talked a little bit about the pillars earlier, but
Mm-hmm.
do you have one that's your favorite?
Oh man. Yeah, it's always a tough one. Well, let's see. I I I feel like for many of us it's eating healthier. Um because so I might talk about two. But I'll say that what comes to mind first is eating the way I do now. But it just seems like, maybe it's not obvious. Maybe other people have been saying other things. There's certainly some like really exercise lovers out there, and I love exercising, but not it's not what drives me. I love good tasting food, and I love how you can make really healthy food also taste really good. And I think that may be surprising to a lot of the population, to where there's the food that I love to eat, and then there's the food that my doctor wants me to eat, right? Like there's the picture of the just delicious spread for the holidays or whatever. And then there's like the really anemic salad with like iceberg lettuce and a tomato picked 3 weeks ago in another country. And you're like, yeah, and it just turns out that that's just it's a misconception, that I'm sure the junk food and the fast food and restaurant, various powers out there would love to keep going, that misconception, because um, yeah, there's a lot of really, really tasty food out there that is tasty because of the different additives and the balance of the salt, oil, and sugar and the mouthfeel and all this kind of stuff. But you can have really good, really, really tasty food that is good for you. And I love that for myself personally, selfishly. But then I love, of course, how then you can share that with your family and friends and with your patients, and then when they see and experience it, then they're like, wow, I'm eating this, it tastes so great, I'm losing weight, my cholesterol numbers are getting better at the doctor's office. So I mean, I think it's just so powerful. um Wiser, more people before us have said, it's the food, or it's the food, it's the food, it's the food. Um and I think that just makes a huge, huge difference. Now, that's not everything, right? Um, you don't want to eat a great, great diet, but stay up all night watching, uh, YouTube and Netflix, which it seems like I could do if I'm not careful, and sleep 2 hours a night every night, right? Because you're gonna die, no matter how healthy the meal is you eat the next day, right? It's just you have to take care of yourself in these other ways, and so I certainly sleep more now than I did when I was in training, and I see the importance of sleep now more. And so, even though that one's not particularly exciting, and I'm not a sleep medicine expert, I love how we are realizing how important that is in trying to turn in at a decent hour and get some sleep so that we're not so going crazy the next day. So those are a couple that come to mind. It is the holidays, so is it okay? Is everyone mentioning like all six of them when you ask them just to say one? But it is the holidays.
Sometimes.
It is a great time to just to revel in the beauty um, of the social aspect of just being together, right? And there's certainly all sorts of ways to disagree with your family and friends over politics and the environment and diet and this and that, but just getting together and hanging out over the holidays, getting some time off work and school, that's so huge and important. And of course, it's important not only when you are during the holidays, but the holidays remind us of how great that can be.
Yep,
We
I
stop there.
agree.
I could keep talking about the other ones. Okay, I'm gonna stop.
I know. Honestly, like these interviews, I feel like I could just ask you, keep asking you questions about we could go forever, right?
Yeah.
There's a reason why we do what we do. We love it and we could just keep talking about it all the time. Um, all right, but final question. It kind of goes back to the food, the food, the food. But what is your I guess favorite plant-based meal right now?
Mm, that's a good one. So I would have to say I'm a simple kind of guy in the kitchen, that having something that's either bean or lentil based is just the way to go. So if I'm planning ahead, soaking the chickpeas or the pinto beans or the black beans and just making a simple dish with that and a whole grain like brown rice or black rice and some greens on top, and a little nutritional yeast and a splash of vinegar of some sort, and that's kind of my go-to. I told you my family was in town, and my brother was saying, "Oh, Dad was asking, did you make a lentil dish? Because apparently every time I've become known as the lentil son or something." And I think the reason why that is because lentils they're so good for us, they're so tasty, and of course, like if I come into town, I visit my folks in Texas. I don't have to have anything prepared. I just, they'll cook up so quickly, right? I didn't have to soak anything the night before. So to do a lentil dish almost always with like a mix of spices from India, Pakistan, this great warmth and the complexity of the flavors. I love making different Indian inspired dishes that are lentil based. So I'm going to stick with the bean lentil answer for you today.
That sounds amazing. And I'm really glad that I waited until the very end of our conversation to ask you about food, because now I'm getting really hungry for lentils. Like, I think I know what lunch is going to be today.
No, I know. I just I haven't eaten since the run, and I'm like I'm wondering if my growling stomach is being picked up on the microphone.
No. Yeah, we got to let you go so you can get some fuel.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Pierce. See, everybody, I told you that he is amazing. I am obviously so grateful to get to work alongside some of the most incredible physicians on the planet, just like Dr. Pierce, who really practice what they preach. Now, if you have not had the pleasure of working with one of our doctors yet, now is the time. Maybe you are suffering from chronic conditions like we talked about. Maybe you just need a doctor who is on your side and supportive of your lifestyle. Maybe you're on a bunch of medications you don't want to be anymore. Maybe you just don't feel your best. So please come and visit us at telehealth.love.life to make an appointment. We have 6 fantastic doctors who cover all 50 states, DC, and international. So visit our website at telehealth.love.life, or you can call us at 888-420-7284. Until next time, I'm Dr. Niki Davis with Love.Life Telehealth. Thanks, Dr. Pierce.